Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Build a Secure Cloud Deployment. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few items regarding this webinar platform. At the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a handful of widgets, mainly the Q&A widget, which you can utilize to submit any questions you have throughout today's webinar session. For viewing purposes, you can also expand your viewing window by clicking on the icon found on the top right corner of the slide viewer. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the Help widget. And lastly, do take a moment to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar. Thank you. At this time, I will now hand your deck over to the presenter.
Great, and that's my cue. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us today for this great announcement about best practices for secure cloud with Microsoft and Checkpoint. And so today we're going to be talking about a couple things in terms of the security in the cloud and help you understand what is going on in the marketplace today and then how we can help you. So if we'll go to the next slide, I think I can advance it. So a quick agenda item, I'm just going to build this out. Today is all about the end user and the focus of I'm going to the cloud or I'm in the cloud. What do I do? And so we are going to talk about shared responsibilities in terms of the Microsoft Azure security platform and their play, our Better Together story with Denver. And then we're going to turn it over to Grant to explain more of our Checkpoint cloud security play to enhance the Azure security and also the reference architect. So in this session, we really want to highlight at a little bit of a higher level the Better Together story, our cloud implementation for both Microsoft and Checkpoint, and hopefully get some resolve from the end user and a peace of mind on what's going on in the marketplace and some real solutions that people have been asking us to perform. Today, it's no secret that the challenges out there are all about securing the cloud. Forrester and a couple other services have just produced a report. Gartner was one of them. In October of 2020, the spend of cloud has now outpaced the spend of infrastructure for the first time in the IT history. So think about that. Now more companies are looking for cloud solutions and cloud security than ever before because their spend has shifted to the cloud from traditional on-site infrastructure. I don't see that ever going back to infrastructure. The cloud is just only going to grow. You've seen a lot of the marketplace shift to a cloud focus, including Microsoft in a big way, and we're going to see that pattern going forward. Checkpoint as a company has also pivoted. Traditionally, we've been known as a big firewall company and a very strong firewall company. In fact, I think our CEO still has a patent on firewalls. But we're positioning to a cloud company as well. I think that's very important to understand because we're going with the trends. And now I really want to have Denver take over and talk about our Checkpoint and Microsoft Better Together story. I think it's a very compelling story. We've worked on this for years now to get to the point where we're at today to really maximize on helping our customers really try and find solutions to these really big cloud security questions today and do it in an effective manner. So with that, Denver, I'd like to kick it off to you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody making the time today. I know we're getting a bit taxed with all the online meetings, so we hope this is going to be a good, fruitful discussion around kind of the partnership and alignment between the two companies, Microsoft and Checkpoint. So I'm the senior one commercial partner or lead, fancy title for I manage the relationship between Microsoft and Checkpoint. Excuse me. So I took over about 2 years ago, and so three kind of pillars I sit on are kind of build with motion, meaning tightly integration with PM teams on both sides, Checkpoint and Microsoft, to really build, enhance across the board from a true integration standpoint. So think everything that Checkpoint's bringing to market, cloud-enabled and adopted to Azure, and then we run GTM and co-sell with our 250,000 field sellers, and primary focus on that is yes, we both sell into the field, and the primary kind of position there is partners like we have on the call. So we have a pretty advanced system of how we go to market and integrate with our partners, and we can kind of chat through that. So really, in essence, in the last year, Checkpoint kind of became our number one co-sell partner for Microsoft. And so what does that mean? We leverage the cloud and Azure in a best practice with our engineering teams to bring new applications to market, to then in turn help the field teams collectively bring a security strategy play around cloud to market. So what we saw as upwards of 1,000 plus opportunities that we closed globally between the two companies. And so Checkpoint today is number one co-sell partner for Microsoft. And so we've made great strides both from the development and go-to-market and the co-sell strategy to realize them as the number one kind of seat for co-sell. And then really we want to maximize customers' Azure investment. So many of our top customers across the board have enterprise enrollment. So fairly low-hanging fruit when you look at, hey, want to have a security strategy and plan around cloud. We're kind of halfway there in regards to end customers already in some fashion or another investing into the cloud. And as Paul touched on earlier, we've made major multi-million dollars, and it's probably in the billions now, but investments in our data centers across the globe. And we continue to open net new ones like Israel coming up very shortly. So it's exciting that the work that we've done over the last, I'd say, 6-7 years on kind of cloud investments have scaled 3 times out of our current public cloud competitors. And then site integration, what does that mean? We really strive to say, okay, is it just an IaaS move to the cloud, or are we really truly integrating with SaaS-based solutions on top of IaaS? And it enhances or makes the applications more sticky from a security standpoint. And so we have tight integration between the two companies, both at the PM and engineering levels, to make sure we're going to market, we're launching on Marketplace and direct to our channel partners the best-of-breed security solutions on the cloud. So I touched on this briefly. Co-sell partner of the year, number one for Checkpoint. It's a huge statement, meaning we've pivoted fully with the investments we've made, both from a dev, go-to-market, and obviously from a co-sell standpoint. We're striving to even be better and more opportunities this year. And everything is really around Azure consumed revenue. And so we want to grow the base in a secure manner, utilizing the security platform that Checkpoint's bringing to the table. They were awarded Most Prolific Security ISV, Microsoft Security 2020. They're involved in a multitude of associations like MISA, which is the Microsoft Intelligence Security Association. It's a composite of managed and unmanaged security partners for Microsoft, both channel and ISV, where Checkpoint kind of falls into. And what we're really trying to do there is maximize growth around security, because it's one of the fastest growing areas for both Microsoft and partners alike. And so that organization's done really well in the way of kind of helping go to market, land case studies, win wires, presentations at a lot of the major events like RSA and Ignite and Inspire, et cetera. And then really focusing on Mac eligible, which I won't get into too much of the details there, but we're bringing and leveraging net new things into Azure Marketplace as we expand kind of the Checkpoint footprint there. They are globally managed, and so what does that mean? We've got a number of folks regionally across the globe. I think we're about 15 now that are core responsibility are Microsoft headcount to help drive and expand the Checkpoint footprint within those given countries. And then I would say from an R&D perspective, all the way up to Scott Guthrie, have great executive sponsorship all the way down through our organization, but the security organizations, the Bharat Shahs, the Yusuf Khalids, the Scott Guthries. So what we're really trying to do is up-level the relationship between the two companies to make sure that we're really finding that sweet spot from the security cloud practice play. I will touch on the cloud adoption framework. We use this as kind of a playbook within kind of Microsoft. So I won't go into every detail here, but really this is how we think of CAF, or the Cloud Adoption Framework, in kind of 3 pillars: business, platform, and then workload. So you have to define that strategy and what the business outcomes or justifications are around a particular strategy, and then really it's just the planning and execution. I kind of look at it as kind of a football, game plan, right? Defining the strategy of how we're going to go to market, what does that look like, and then building a plan that really seamlessly, tightly aligns to that strategy. So alignment, skills, readiness, making sure that there's that cloud adoption plan. So the pre-planning probably is where we spend a bulk of our time, making sure that we have the right strategy moving forward. And then really pivoting over to platforms. So we help with Azure readiness guides, expanding kind of the blueprint that Checkpoint was so kindly to help build out. And then really governing that, what do we need to do around initial best practices or governance maturity? We know that the cloud's fastly adopting across many enterprise accounts, but I would say there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity, and so we just want to make sure the methodologies that we're putting in play are really effective. And then really getting down to the workload, I want to make sure we're adopting, innovating, and continuing to migrate new and expanded workloads. And so, adoption is a key part of that. And then I would say probably the most important is well architected, right? So a lot of times, many partners, I've been in the business for 6 years on the ISV side here at Microsoft, really comes down to how well do we orchestrate and architect the applications. It's easy to do a lift and shift. It's a lot harder, and we put the work in to do it a lot harder because we feel like the seeds that we've sowed are going to mature and do better at the end customer performance when the application at the engineering levels are well architected. And so we put a lot of emphasis around that. And then really that last pivot is around management. Ops maturity and business commitments, baselines around actually managing the workload from business to platform to that end result. So that's a little bit around the cloud adoption framework. I'll go into kind of the principles. So it's intended to guide and help navigate. And then core areas of cloud adoption framework, which need to be addressed at each end customer level. These are strategies that Microsoft holistically puts in play with the Microsoft field teams, and we work alike with partners to make sure that we're addressing those core areas. And then we really highlight workshops that are needed and really covering in each of those workshops kind of the cloud adoption framework methodology. And so we have a really precise way to really help them through the building blocks of, securing the cloud. And then Azure DevOps projects to support the delivery. That's a key facet there as well. We want to make sure we have continued delivery around support and backup there. And so we really put a good emphasis around DevOps. And then the last one, I won't spend too much time, but it's a customer-facing guide. And so we want to make sure that we're transparent across the board, both from Checkpoint as a partner, through our channel, through our field teams, all the way to that end customer experience. And so it's very consistent and very concise. So what can you guys expect? So the cloud adoption framework is a series of workshops, so broken into like mini sessions. And so we live in a world of pandemic. Unfortunately, we're all getting taxed, like I mentioned before, with online meetings, but we do these mini sessions. We used to do them in person. Now we deliver these fully and holistically online. So the workshops kind of touch people, process, and technology, and really just do what we can in a world of online to deliver these workshops in a meaningful way. But I think to give an approach and practice of how we go through the building blocks makes it a lot easier to have that online experience, where in the past we'd actually have some folks sitting in kind of a conference room or a ballroom going through the workshop. And then each workshop has specific outcomes and deliverables. So want to make sure that, yes, we have a blueprint, but we also know that adoption takes place in many forms and that we help accelerate that and identify that not all, we'll call it, end customer scenarios are the same. So we do predefined projects that have been created to kind of structure the workshop in a way that is helpful to that adoption. So we have a couple call to action. So to set up kind of a tour assessment or work with great companies like Insight, which is a fantastic partner for both Checkpoint and Microsoft. We've provided these aliases and these folks that are supporting from a channel perspective. So if you have interest in that, please reach out to the Insight team with Ray and Lisa. That would be more than happy to set up a CAF or a call to action there. So I appreciate that, and I think with that, I will pass it back over to Grant. Appreciate your guys' time.
That was terrific, Denver. Thank you. Really great. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to shift gears a little bit. And I know all of you have heard these statistics, so the last thing you want me to do is belabor this ferocious growth of the cloud and how really fast growing the cloud is. And it is interesting. One stat I will share with you that I found very interesting is it was forecasted that cloud would actually grow this year at like around 17%. And in fact, it's somewhere near 47%. Pretty crazy. But I really want to kind of shift the perspective, despite the note Paul had mentioned that, the current spending has eclipsed infrastructure. The fact of the matter is this year, we're going to spend about $4 trillion, and this data may be skewed a little bit because of the current situation. But what I really think is important is we need to remember that this is a phenomenal, exciting compute environment that really offers unprecedented capabilities and agility and capabilities. And it's really, in fact, I'll cite Gartner again, how to make your data center more secure or your cloud data center more secure than your on-premise. That's what this actually says you can do. And so that's where we need to focus. We need to focus on unshackling the marketplace and thinking that they can't be more secure. Now, show of hands, how many have this behind your enterprise, your building, your house? Oh no, we're all at home now. So this is how you're powering everything, right? Of course not. And this is why, I had the benefit of speaking on a panel with IDC in Tremblant, and I loved what the analyst said. He said, we're all going to be moving to the cloud. Completely and totally, we're all going to be going there, but it's going to take 40 or 50 years. And what we're seeing now is this stretching of the migration to the cloud, and we're seeing all sorts of variations in terms of where organizations are in their journey. Now, look, I'm a simple guy, but this is how I kind of set it up. For many, many years, you've been the captain of your own ship. You choose what goes in the cupboard to eat, what harbor to drop anchor, your charted course, when you're sailing, when you're not. Truly the captain of your own ship. And when you move to using Azure, I guess it's fair to say you're renting a slightly larger boat. Now, some of you may be going, that's stupid. It's not a good example. Au contraire, because the fact is your fixed data center, you own it all, you manage it all. And in that analogy previously of your own sailboat, you're the captain of your own ship. If that ship ever is going to have another bedroom, you're going to have to go build it or buy a new boat, where this is implying at the click of a mouse, you can spin up your capabilities and capacity just like that. And it really is accurate. But what we have to remember is the controlled environment that we've been very accustomed to is quite different from this environment that's designed and capable of accommodating Fortune 1 million and Fortune 1. So we have to realize this is going to require new skills, new talents, new capabilities, a lot of new, and leveraging the old. And with the pace everybody's going, with the limited resources we have, I would suggest you should get some help from folks like Insight. Now, the thing you won't see in your own data center is drift and sprawl. Now, some of you may remember back in the early days of virtualization, and we had these new things like inter-VM communications and vMotion, and we didn't know how to deal with it. We had to get new tools to deal with these new capabilities. Well, we're in the same boat now, and as the late, great Yogi Berra used to say, it's deja vu all over again, but now it's exacerbated because I don't have to get into your data center. I just have to have login credentials from anywhere on the planet and a credit card, and I'm off to the races. So drift and sprawl is really a challenge, emphasizing the critical need for visibility. Now, the other thing that you're not going to see in the fixed data center that you see in the cloud that we love, it's that ephemeral, almost heaving, alive, breathing aspects, right? It spins up. I mean, if there has ever been a time in my lifetime, certainly, where the value of these elastic environments, these ephemeral environments are really demonstrating this right now. Whether you're caught on the good side or the bad side of the fence in terms of you need to spin up or you need to spin down, now is an amazing time for that capability. But this ephemeral nature also changes the game, because for years in the security play, we've always kind of said, hey, what's the IP address? And that was the starting point. Well, in the ephemeral world, you might have a function that lives for milliseconds with an IP address. We can't rely and depend on the same tools that we've always relied and depended on in the past. So with that, my screen has, I'm having a hard time seeing my slides. Now I'm there. Okay. Sorry, I somehow I zoomed way in, so I'll get by. Is everybody seeing the screen okay?
Yes, we are.
Anybody?
You can see them.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. I'll just keep going then. So, the other thing that's very different is in the world of compliance, and in particular, when you think about, in your own ship, you decide, I mentioned before, what goes out. Hey, kids, time to eat. And you put out a couple of boxes of cereal and you're off. But when we scale, when we move into this new world that has unprecedented scalability, it's really challenging to ensure you're maintaining and enforcing compliance continuously, and that policy is uniformly enforced across this scaling at the speed of cloud environment. It's a new challenge, and you need new tools. So, and I'm sorry, my screen is, I'm really losing my continuity here. So I've got to try to figure out how to get this fixed. Sorry about this, guys. So it looks like we've got a poll, and it's, which cloud IaaS provider do you currently use or plan to use? And this, it comes from the new cloud security report that came out this year. And you can see what's important to understand about this slide is the number of horses in the race are getting fewer. And what we're seeing is the few get larger. And so it's really kind of like power companies, right? I mean, it's the big guys are gonna end up prevailing. Now, I wanna one of the things we wanted to look at, we talk a lot about posture and configuration, but I wanted to look at, how dangerous is it in the cloud? Is it really that dangerous? So what we did is we stood up an internet account, and understand this was a cloud account that had nothing in it. Username and password, that was it. But we did put in a honeypot, and we wanted to see who's going to be rattling the cages. You can see that in the first 15 minutes, there was like some 150 attempts to get in and see what's going on. In literally just 1 week's time, we had nearly 4 million different cage rattling, doorknob shaking attempts. And this is the bad guys leveraging bots, AI, and automation. The minute they see a new account come online, they're on it, and they're scanning it and trying to figure out how to get in there. Now, anybody use MongoDB? Very popular database, and a lot of companies use it. So this is almost funny. I did this presentation with Shira Shamban a while ago, but we want to see how many instances of MongoDB are out there in the wild. And so we went to Shodan, and you can see we found quite a few. But what was really startling was how many were using either default or no password at all. And you could see it was over 20,000. Well, we actually put this presentation together a while ago, and gosh, wouldn't you know it, in July, there was a breach where there was some 20,000 MongoDBs that were held hostage. I don't know about you, but I think that's a remarkable coinky-dink. But yeah, I guess you could say we tried to warn you. So some more data from the cloud security report. What are your biggest cloud security concerns? And you can see that it's all coming back to the data now more than ever, where last year it was compliance kind of stepped up. This year it's all about the data. And here, some more information. What are the main barriers for migrating your solutions to the cloud? And I think you'll find this data, interesting. Budget's always an issue, but we are so hamstrung right now in terms of resources, and the data is scary because it actually is getting worse. The delta's widening in terms of the number of new resources, human resources, skilled cyber resources that are coming into the market right now. It's really unfortunate. So, trying to figure out, so when I'm again, a kind of a simple guy, and this is how I look at compliance and visibility in the cloud. The image on the left is your fixed data center. And if there's not enough water, you've got to go get the hose. You're maybe worried about chlorine and pH and those kinds of things. Where the image on the right, you're going to be more worried about whether something's going to eat you. But you and I think we'll all agree, both of these are places to go swimming. So it's subtleties and nuances when you move into the cloud that will really get you. And I'll give you an example. I've used a load balancer for years, so I shouldn't have any problem with an ELB. Maybe, maybe not. We assume everything is the same and nobody, remember RTFM? Some of you do, I suspect, right? We don't do that anymore. And so this just shows that fully 90% are concerned about maintaining continuous compliance as those workloads get moved into the cloud. And it's the continuous part that really is key. Now, look, I'm with you. We all want to depreciate. We all want to make use of the old. We all want to do all we can to not have to spend more money because we know budgets are constrained. But the data, this is even higher than it was last year. Last year was some 66%. This year it's in the 80s where it's going to fail. It's going to fall short, and you need new tools for these new environments. So headaches. What are you concerned about? How concerned are you about security in public cloud? Now, this is where you can see still very or extremely concerned. I hope it isn't synonymous with believing its ability to be secured, because as I mentioned, you actually can make it more secure by employing automation and bots and whatnot. So let's just talk real quickly, and I'll build this out, about the challenges. I mentioned already subtleties and nuances. These are really, they're going to get you because we take them for granted and we don't really get focused on the nuances and learning the differences. As we accelerate new technology, it's coming on so fast. Microsoft is releasing new stuff so fast in the cloud arena alone. This is really stretching us because we're all dragging that tail of old technology along, right? I mentioned this before, but I really want to call it out again, and that's sprawl. It's drift. It's really a problem now, and you need the appropriate tools to lock it down. And then finally, we are so hyper-connected, ladies and gentlemen. We're federating. We're using services like Hashi and others. And as a result, it's really complicating the attack surface, or broadening and making more complex that attack surface that you're responsible for protecting against. And it can really, really be very, very challenging. And then finally, the thing that I guess we all know is the tools are still early and immature. We're working on catching up. And I'll bring your attention to the statistic on the bottom. This is like, I don't know about you, but at least in my book means it's not going to go lower. And when I see at least 99%, I'm thinking, how can it go anywhere? But I mean, it's everybody. All right. So I'm sorry, I'm having to look around. I've got just a few examples of some of the breaches that people have to be concerned about and should be looking out for that are common. And the one that we hear the most about is, buckets, storage left open, unsecured. More and more are now defaulting to that, but that's a huge problem. This is something we need to patch. We need to patch. Remember the in and of, that's what you're responsible for, what the cloud providers are responsible for. Anything that you put in it, you also need to make sure it's maintained and patched. And a lot of organizations are acknowledging that this has really become very, very difficult. And this is just another example of unpatched. This was an actual incident response team from Checkpoint that found that it was an unpatched configuration that resulted in the breach. And then finally, what we're going to start to see more of is this crazy hyper-connected resulting in a breach because of one of those links along that chain, a supplier. We're hearing about that more and more, but it's that widely distributed, hyper-connected, one little hole gets me in, and we're all carrying around the personal supercomputers, right? That's what ends up happening is, if I get in, the prize is the data, right? No matter which corner I get into, it's why you need to protect everything. So, it is, I always say everyone knows infrastructure as a service, IaaS. Maybe it should be called invisible and always susceptible because it is. But here's the thing. This was the report I mentioned to earlier. You actually can make it more secure than your on-premise data center when you use the right tools. And one of the things you're starting to see is we're taking a page from the automakers. If you bought a new car recently, did it come with training or driving lessons? No, but it'll keep you in your lane and brake for you. These are the tools we're going to start to see more and more coming from vendors that are going to actually help protect us from us. We need these tools, and I really want you to consider the partnership that Checkpoint has with Microsoft, but also with Insight, because it's absolutely critical. Now, quickly, because I'm going to run out of time here, and it's because I'm having a mess with my screen, and I apologize for it. Run through a couple of trends. Shifting left, security shifting left, moving into a full DevOps environment or DevSecOps. This is absolutely critical, and you're starting to see more and more and more tools making it easier and actually protecting developers against themselves when they're writing code, providing real-time inspection of the code before it goes out on things like serverless functions and whatnot. A really powerful capability and a trend that's really happening. Sorry, I'm having to keep looking so I know what I'm going to be talking about. Automation. So this is one of those double-edged swords where it's absolutely gives you unprecedented capabilities, but you need to be aware of the consequences when you flip the switch, so to speak, on automating a decision. A lot of organizations will actually implement automation and then watch it. And then once they build confidence that they're going to get the results they want every time, then to flip it on. And now the last one is containers. And, this is going to explode because it's putting together Legos. So for the sake of time, I'm going to hurry along. But if you haven't, go do it. All this stuff is freely accessible and easy to get. So the thing is, you can't stop securing anything. You have to continue to secure it all. You need to look for tools that spread the breadth of your cloud environment, leverage the native tools, and harmonize all of your environments, both on-prem and cloud. And, they're out there. We encourage you to take a look at what we're offering, because we think that that's exactly what we do. So I've got a number of resources. This one's on compliance. Please let me know. I'll make sure it's available. Again, because I'm running over, I'm going to get in trouble. We've also got a great blueprint, a Cloud Security Blueprint 2.0, very detailed, lots of information for you, and I'm happy to provide that for everyone. So with that, thank you very much. Apologize about the screen confusion, but I'll hand it back to you now and get things fixed.
Well, thanks, Grant. I appreciate it. And sorry about the technical difficulty there. We try to make it as smooth as possible, and sometimes it doesn't work that way. So let's go into Q&A. Do we have any questions in the queue? Angela or Emily, if you have anything, questions in the queue, let me know. So there's one question I'm getting in Denver, if you're still on. The question is, if we already have Azure and Microsoft has security, do we need checkpoint security on top of that? And the answer, of course, is yes. What I picture it, and Denver and Grant can chime in here, but why I picture it, the platform, the cloud platform, is secure. The way you transact data is secure. Checkpoint is a security wrap around that data, right?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? I think for the most part, we embarked on kind of one commercial partner that I've been a part of since kind of the inception of Azure and cloud, right? We fundamentally, yes, we develop first-party software solutions. What we innately saw in our partnerships were there's areas and gaps that we have as a company. And so that kind of paused us to say, hey, who are we wanting and needing to integrate with from a gaps perspective? And so we go through quite a few exercises before we actually assign a person like myself or a team to support a partner like Checkpoint. And so I would say, yes, we're absolutely secure. Yes, we have in some cases, and I'll just point it out because most of you are probably pretty savvy, there are some times there's overlap. And so competition or whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, I would say from a security practice standpoint, we compete less from first party to third party with Checkpoint Microsoft solutions, but we inherently have some, I would say, solution area gaps or areas of application integration that we don't fully have all the, I would say, pieces kind of mapped out. And so that's when we leverage the partner ecosystem. And so we've spent the broader part of about 6 years really identifying, okay, what gaps do we have in the security application portfolio? What partners do we need to bring in, leverage, manage, develop, and integrate together with, which daisy chains on obviously go-to-market and co-sell. But yeah, security is not fine for everybody, but that's how I would answer that, which is, yes, we are secure. Yes, we'll continue to develop first-party solutions, but we also know that, Checkpoint leaders in the quadrant in their space are better together than better separated.
Great. I mean, Grant, did you want to add anything to that? That was great, Denver. That was excellent.
Yeah, no, how can I add on that?
Excellent. All right, and then one other question, Grant, was Checkpoint has now pivoted, gone to the cloud. We've talked about that extensively today. What are the new frontiers, or what's kind of like the next step now? So we're moving to cloud. We've already chosen Azure. We're using the Checkpoint security model that we talked about. what can we expect in the future? Is there any, I guess, type of roadmap coming forward, or what do you see maybe in your professional opinion, what kind of the next steps are, what's going to happen?
So I kind of inferred this earlier, but I think one of the things that's really critical that companies need to consider is that this is a long journey. It's not a I'm using on-premise and now I'm using the cloud and you're done. Because once you get to the cloud, there's so much to it, and many are lured into the lift and shift, right? And then they find out that's a mistake, and then they unravel, and there's a lot to it. So I think what you can expect is you can expect Check Point certainly to expand on the platform, to expand on offering a unified, harmonized approach to securing your everything. And that will also be evident in the platform support, if you will, for CloudGuard. And it's already evident today, as you know, Paul, with CloudGuard. It's a very comprehensive platform that supports on-premise and IaaS implementation in if a private cloud or public cloud. You've got CloudGuard Connect. I mean, the list is long. And for my recommendation, and this is also the recommendation of this report I've referred to a couple of times, if you look on their pyramid graphic, the first thing they say is get continuous cloud security posture management. So, as a first step, that would be what I would advocate everyone do if they've not done that. Investigate a quality posture management platform that also has a roadmap that will move into functions and serverless and protects containers and Kubernetes and all the other stuff. So it's I think the biggest mistake is thinking it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy a new computer. It's much more than that.
Excellent. Great synopsis. So we just want to thank you again for taking time out. We know people are inundated now with webinars and event promotions, et cetera. But this is a very critical piece, I think, in a puzzle a lot of end users are talking about. So again, we just want to thank you for your time. If you have further questions or comments, of course, you can reach out to your Check Point or Insight representatives. And with that, I think we'll end the webcast. Thank you again.
Thank you.